This episode is sponsored by Shopify. Try the e-commerce platform I trust for Glossy. Sign up for your $1 a month trial period at shopify.com/happy. Open phone. Eliminate the hassle of managing work conversations from your personal phone. Get 20% off with Open Phone on your first 6 months when you sign up at openphone.com/earn. Rocket Money. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/EYH today. Saley, get an exclusive 15% off discount on Saley eSIM data plans. Go to saley.com/happy and download the Saley app and use code HAPPY at checkout. Instead of thinking in terms of what do I want to do next year or in 2 years or in 3 years, it's really important to start asking yourself, what do I want to do in 10 years? Thanks for tuning back in to the Earn Your Happy podcast. It's time for another quickie because there's always time to fit in inspiration. And I had some things happen today that made me know exactly what I was going to talk about on this quickie. And that is about playing the long game. Now, if one of these things comes through, it will be an incredible opportunity that will help propel multiple businesses of mine. And this would be a relationship that happened over 10 years ago. Now, what I want to say about this relationship is that I absolutely nurtured this relationship and checked in. And while there were years that went by where I was not checking in, when I would see her or remember, I would. And not just because I was like, oh, in the future, you could be working at this place or this place. I had no idea where this woman would be, but I really appreciated our relationship and also what she had done for me in the past. And she was just a very wonderful, successful person. And she has gone on to do incredible big things and had reached out to me today. And hopefully something will come to fruition with it. And it really just made me realize how important these long-term relationships are. Now, I can share more later. I don't know if this thing is going to happen, but if it does, it's going to be amazing. And that really just made me think about all of the other relationships in my life right now, where they are relationships from either, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, that have made a big impact in my business. It got me to thinking that even with Glossy, I recently hired an advisor about 3 months ago who is changing the game in my business. Like, there are so many things that are moving so fast because this person has come in and helped me just audit everything, streamline things, save money in multiple different places because he's done this before. And he was somebody that I podcasted with 4 or maybe 5 years ago at this point. And we just had a great energy together. And we just kind of nurtured that relationship, very little, but here and there. And, just little check-ins in different ways. And I can say that how you show up in those first times in those relationships, we didn't keep up much after that, but we were in the same circles. We had mutual respect for each other. He knew a lot of people that I knew, which is also how I treat people in relationships. That all gets around. You have a reputation in your relationships and out in the world, obviously. And he was willing to work with us. He doesn't work with just anybody, obviously, because his time is, precious. And so getting to work with him was huge. And that happened 4 or 5 years ago. And so it's all about building the long game. And we live in a world that loves quick wins. We're obsessed with gratification instantly, you guys. And, I even see this addiction in myself. Like, I'll be working on my laptop in the middle of a very important project. And somehow, like, without even realizing it, all of a sudden I realize my phone's in my hand and I'm on Instagram. And I'm like, wait, why did I pick up my phone in the first place? Like, it's literally has us trained to go and search for dopamine. Like, let's say I was looking up a password or something that I needed on my phone, and all of a sudden your brain goes to, well, I'll check everything while I'm here. People are paying so much money to get our attention. You guys, these apps pay so much money to learn how to distract us, which means that we have to be extra, extra fierce about where we're putting our attention. So here's the truth though. The biggest wins in business and relationships never ever come from quick hits, you guys. Most likely you're not going to meet someone and have a business partner tomorrow. You're probably not going to meet someone instantly and have them want to come work for you and help your company. It's very rare that these things are going to happen. And when you think about when you want to work with someone or hire someone or have a mentor or join their mastermind or join their program, it's probably because you know, like, and trust them and have been looking at their stuff from a distance or up close for a really, really long time. So you guys, there's a science to playing the long game. There's the compound effect, which is a Darren Hardy's concept, just talking about small, consistent actions leading to exponential results over time. And if you improve by just 1% every day, you're 37 times better in a year. You guys, that is huge. There's also another stat that if you do something 100 times, if you just do something 100 times, you are so far ahead of the game of everybody else because most people don't ever get there. Most people don't do anything over 30 times, you guys. So if you can say to yourself, okay, like, could I do this thing 100 times in a row? It's a James Clear principle. If you do something 100 times, you're 95% ahead of everybody else. And you guys, instead of thinking in terms of what do I want to do next year or in 2 years or in 3 years, it's really important to start asking yourself, what do I want to do in 10 years? And honestly, anything that's going to be something that pays off isn't even going to be successful or even come close to being anything until year 3. You guys, that is insane. Until year 3, it doesn't even have a glimmer of catching momentum. And so I think of this all of the time with startups. Like, so many startups don't even really get started until year 3. And that's why in a lot of startups, you start seeing a lot of growth on year 4 and 5 is because the first 3 years of anything is really what you can consider foundational years. So if you have people in the business, maybe you're coaching, maybe you're launching something and you're like, man, it's been pretty rough, like the first 2 to 3 years. That is so normal. You're laying the groundwork. You're probably building your reputation. You're probably building your audience. You are in the long game with your business. You're in the long game with your relationships, you guys. And truly, every successful business and relationship has seasons. It's the exciting, boring, tough, and thriving seasons that are all going to meld into one. And if you only show up for the good seasons, you're not going to build anything that lasts, you guys. So one of the big things, because this is the long game, is to focus on making today great. Instead of thinking of the finish line, I just really want you guys to think about how to make today successful and enjoyable. And remember that you get to solve the problems that you're choosing. When you start a business, when you're working on the things that you want to be working on, it doesn't mean that it's going to be less hard. It's probably going to be harder. You're probably going to feel more connected to it. You probably won't be able to quit at 5 o'clock and get your brain to turn off. But I want you to remember that you're solving problems that you chose. Someone else is not choosing them for you. And like I mentioned, try to apply the 3-year rule. And remember that anything worth doing takes at least 3 years to get results. So really sticking with it for 3 years before you even decide that it's working. And whenever you build relationships, just remember that you're trying to actually play a 10-year game. Surround yourself with the people that you want to be with in the next 10 years and the people that you see yourself wanting to be like in the next 10 years. And so, just like the examples that I gave in the beginning, look at how long some of those relationships are. And the other thing that I want you to think about with those stories that I told is imagine where these people who are doing big things, imagine where they're going to be in the next 5 and 10 years. And if I keep those relationships up and nurture them and do things for them as well and ask them where they need help, imagine what they might come back to me with if they're trajectory continues to grow. It's mind-blowing when you think of it that way. So when you're nurturing these relationships with people and really trying to help these people and ask them what they need help with as well, those are the people who are going to continue to further their careers, and they're going to come back and want to work with you because you have a tried and true reputation and you're not in it for the quick wins. You're not burning bridges. You're not jumping from person to person trying to get quick wins. You're really letting them know that you are bought in for the long run of this. So I want you guys to think about what's one thing that you can do today and this week that your future self is going to thank you for relationship wise, long-term wise. Like, how can you build up those relationships for the long haul? And what's the thing that you can do that if you do it 100 times, you'll start to see a little tiny bit of a payoff. So you guys, I hope that this helps. I hope that you remember, if you're in something right now, like, you just need a mindset shift to remember that everything is the long game. And it's about learning how to enjoy the journey. I hate even saying that. It's so cliche, except it's exactly what everything is about. And this year, I am just so focused on enjoying the people that I work with, deepening those relationships, enjoying what I get to do, enjoying my community, like really, really dropping in and enjoying everything that I do. And so you guys, I hope that this helped. As always, I love for you to reach out to me in the DMs or share this if you loved it with someone that needs to hear it. That's how the podcast gets out. And I'm just so grateful for you, and I will talk to you next week.